So you want to capture yourself wing foiling so you can share incredible shots like this. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to mount your camera to get the best perspective flying on your foil, and also give you some camera tips along the way. Check it out. 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for tuning into my channel. Blaze here. In case you haven't seen any of my other videos, I have a whole bunch of wing foil tutorial videos. I'll link some of the popular ones in the video description below. Also, before I dive into the video, I wanted to give a quick plug to the best foil board builder on the planet, Robert's Composites. If you don't know who they are, they locally hand make each one of their boards, and they are amazing. So I'm gonna link them also in the description below. Make sure to check them out if you do want the best foil board on the planet. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is cameras. And a lot of people use action cameras like GoPros, which are great because they do have a wide angle lens. But the challenging thing about wing foiling is you have to mount the camera relatively close to you, so it's hard to cover all the action. You want to capture your foil under the water, yourself riding the board, your wing in your hand. So the best camera to do this is actually a 360 camera. One option for a 360 camera is the GoPro Max. It is a 360 camera, has a lens on either side, as all 360 cameras do, and that allows you to capture all the action around you on the front of the camera and the back of the camera, and then when you're editing, you can choose what you want to actually see in your shot. The one thing you are going to need with your 360 camera is a pole to mount it to. I actually picked up an $8 painting pole from Home Depot. The reason I grabbed this was because it's hollow inside, and basically if it comes loose from my wing, then it will float and I won't lose my camera and my footage. So something to think about. There are a ton of just conventional 360 poles out there, but if you do want it to float, if it ever comes loose, then consider using the option I am, or get a different pole that does float. In my opinion, mounting your pole and camera to your wing gives you the best perspective riding. But some people like to use a backpack camera rig, which also is definitely a cool looking shot. For me though, I find it a bit cumbersome when I'm riding with it, and it also feels a little goofy when you're walking around with a giant selfie stick sticking out your back. But definitely check out the backpack mount if you are interested in that perspective. I personally like mounting my pole and camera to my wing, and I'm going to share a few different ways I do it in this video. So the first way I started mounting my camera was to the front of my wing, and this is actually great. It is a cool perspective. It also prevents water droplets from getting on the lens because the camera's in front of you and not hitting the splashes behind you. And the other great thing about it is it's in a nice convenient spot for you to access your camera, so you can make sure the camera's rolling, you can press start and stop, or you can just change the settings if you ever wanted to on the fly. The problem with this perspective is it is a little bit higher up, so you don't actually get any perspective of your foil under the water. Nevertheless, I would sometimes throw it here because it is a nice clear perspective and prevents those nasty water drops from getting on your lens. So my favorite place to mount my camera is actually on the back of my wing, and the reason I love it here so much is because, well, one is an awesome perspective. You really get a great vantage point of how high you're flying above the water. You can see your foil literally soaring underneath the water, which looks super cool, and it also showcases how high you are, the lift you have off the water, which is super cool. The other thing that's really great about this angle is your camera tends to be closer to the water, so it really showcases the speed you're traveling at, because the camera being close to the water shows that water passing by really quickly. Now, there are a couple drawbacks to putting your camera at the back of your wing. The first being you do get splashes of water on your lenses, and this can kind of distort your shot or kind of kill your shot, which sucks. But typically I find when I'm riding, and because you're shaking your wing and you're going pretty quickly, the water droplets tend to dissipate. So if it's kind of poor in one area, it hopefully corrects itself a little bit later. The other factor that you do want to consider is that you can't actually access your camera when you're riding. So basically what you're doing is turning your camera on, setting it and forgetting it, and doing your laps back and forth, and then checking out your footage later. The other thing that happened to me on one of my first sessions when I had the camera at the back was that my camera actually, a setting got hit, whether that's from hitting the water or just the water touching the touchscreen on the camera. It actually hit a setting and the recording stopped, and I didn't record my whole session. I was pretty choked about it. So what I can do with the GoPro Max is actually lock the camera. So once I hit that record button, I know something isn't going to accidentally get pressed, and I haven't had an issue since then. So I also wanted to share with you guys how I physically mount my pole and my camera to my wing. Basically, I'm just using some cheap paracord. It's the same stuff that I use to mount my leash to my board, similar length to a shoelace, maybe a little bit longer. And what I'm doing is just anchoring the bottom of my pole to the second last handle on my wing, and then I'm just wrapping that paracord as far down the pole as I can, just to make sure it's anchored down nicely and doesn't allow too much flapping when I'm flying my wing. This is a nice, easy way to do it. It's pretty quick to mount, pretty easy to get off, and it's really secure where it's not going to go anywhere as long as you tie it nice and tight when you're attaching it to your wing. One drawback that you got to be aware of is that it does make your back handle a bit thicker. Depending on how you place it, it might be a little more challenging for you to grip that back strut. I don't find this is typically an issue, but when I wear gloves, if I'm riding in cold weather, then I do find it a little bit more slippery to pull that back handle. Still worth it for me to use, but something to keep in mind that a thinner pole would probably actually do you a little bit better, but I wanted a pole that was hollow, that floated, so I'm willing to make this trade-off, and I'm pretty happy with the setup regardless. Before I wrap this up, I did want to share an awesome wing foiling accessory with you guys, and that are these surf ears. And basically what these are earplugs for when you're wing foiling that prevent water from going into your ear. When I was riding, I was finding that I was getting water in my ears and in my sinuses, and it was actually giving me a headache after sessions. So once I got hold of these guys, it was awesome because that totally stopped happening. And the great thing about surf ears is they don't let the water in, but they allow all the sound to come through, so you can hear perfectly when you're using them, but none of the water gets in your ears. I'm going to link these below if you guys are interested in checking them out. They are called surf ears, and all the details are in the link below. And that's it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful. As always, if you liked it, please smash that like button. Consider subscribing. Check out my other tutorial videos on wing foiling, hoping to make many more down the road. So yeah, thanks again for watching and supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.